All right, guys, we're going to start at the beginning. We know there was a 911 phone call that they ever denied, November the 22nd of 2019. They said, no, ma'am, we did come to your house, but we did not come to your house for allegations of abuse or neglect for the children. We also know that the Department of Social Services denied ever having any records of me calling the Department of Social Services the following day after the 911 phone call. Um, but we now know through the previous recording that they did, in fact, have records. Once I found that out, I filed a FOIA request. I want these records. They sent me an email and a letter telling me that they do possess one file consisting of one volume of 16 pages. These records, however, constitute confidential social services records of the department and are subject to exclusion under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Therefore, the records, Virginia Code 2.23705.5, subsection 3 of the Act. So they're telling me that I can't have the records. That's kind of confusing to me. How does that work with my child neglect charges in West Virginia? That could be considered exculpatory evidence that could clear me of failing to protect my child. If you ask me, I think they're just trying to pull bullshit laws out of their backside so that to keep me from being found guilty. Like, they are not guilty. They want me to be found guilty so bad in these criminal charges, and they are so worried that I am going to be found not guilty. And to be found not guilty means what? Why were my children taken from me to begin with? Anyways, we have my indictment, which was filed June 15th of 2021, even though I was arrested January the 23rd, January the 24th of 2020. So it took them, that long to even get an indictment out of me. I'm going to assume that they were worried that if the not guilty came back, then I would have my kids back. Virginia has a law. It's called the 1522 law. Once the children are in their care for 15 out of 22 months, then they have a duty to file for termination of parental rights. So I'm going to assume that, that's why it took so long to even get an indictment, because to be found not guilty, I would have got my kids back. Anyways, so we have that. The offense is gross child neglect resulting in substantial risk of serious injury and or risk of death. It says right there in the indictment that on or about the 28th day of November 2019 in the county of Mercer, state of West Virginia, Amanda Dawn Baines Meade committed the offense of gross child neglect resulting in risk of serious injury or death by unlawfully, and then it goes on to state what I supposedly did to my children. Let's go. So this is the original narrative. The date on it is 1/22/2020. This is when the police, I found out that my daughter had been abused. This is when the police finally got involved. So from November the 22nd until January the 22nd, 2 months, 60 days had passed by. 6 days after the 911 phone call is when DSS is saying that the alleged abuse occurred. There are records out there that can confirm this date or deny this date. They have kept me from gaining access to these records. To gain access to these records, would probably put me in a better position in West Virginia with my criminal charges, so I can't have them. Again, exculpatory evidence, but who cares if she's innocent, right? We're just going to say she's guilty, and we're going to get everybody to fucking agree with us, and we're going to lock her up, and we are going to shut her up. But anyways, the original narrative. I have redacted stuff, things that I really don't think is any of anyone's business. It's concerning my children, and I think certain things about my children should be kept left unsaid. So I will read this to you. On 1/22/2020, I Sergeant Anders responded to the Witt County Community Hospital to assist Officer Shoemate with a reported child abuse case. Okay, they had a reported child abuse case on November the 22nd, 2020. There is nothing out there. Well, we have them saying that the 911 call did occur, but other than that, there's no records anywhere of anything, which I find odd because they're responding to a reported child abuse case. They are coming full force. There was 4, 5, 6 possibly detectives. There was contact with the Department of Social Services on whether they should take my children from me that night or whether they should leave my children in my care. You will see they left my children in my care. Yes, I went home with my children that night, all of them. Anyways, I located Officer Shoemate inside of room 8 speaking with the victim. The victim was identified as blank, will not tell you her name, which was in the presence of her mother, Amanda Baines. During the interview with the victim, we were advised that on Thanksgiving Day 2019, she and her family traveled to Princeton, West Virginia, where they acquired a room. Stop right there. I acquired 2 rooms that night. They have this information. I think that's just the deeper that we get into this, that is going to be in a very important detail. And her family were further advised that her blah, 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 blah. Victim never reported the incident to her mother at the time. Never reported it. So I did not know from the date that they're alleging, which was 11/28/2019, until 1/22/2020, that the abuse had even occurred. Some people will say, well, didn't you question your child? I did. The night that the officer came to my house, he said, don't question her. Don't ask her anything about the alleged abuse that is going on, because if we do what we will call a forensic interview on the child, we want the child to be able to speak from her memory. We want her to be able to tell facts, and we don't want, something that you may have said to her, in questioning her, not meaning to, but because I'm not trained in this type of stuff, that she could have pulled something, from maybe a question that I had asked her, and would use that as a part of her story. So I shut my mouth. I listened. From that point forward, I did not question my daughter. I did not ask my daughter. I did not approach my daughter. And I did not ask her anything because I was advised not to. That was the worst piece of advice that I have ever listened to in my entire life. And, I find it funny because they say I am non-compliant. They say that I don't listen to them, that I, go against their rules and their policies. And, I'm very compliant. From the beginning of this, I dove right in head first, willing to do anything these people asked me to get my children back home with me. So now, here we have that. Let's finish it. Upon completion of the initial interview, Officer Shoemate and myself stepped outside the room to further discuss the investigation. During this time, with County Sheriff's Office Investigator Terry inquired about the need for a response from their agency. Due to some statements made during the interview by Baines, me, that indicated possible other incidents occurring. Major Klein responded at 22:14 hours to the ED to interview the victim and myself. He determined that the incidents indicated by me were unfounded, and the Wythe County Sheriff's Office held no jurisdiction in this matter. When they first interviewed me, their first question was, "Do you know anything about this?" My first response was, "No, I don't," because I didn't. I knew that there had been allegations of abuse. So in order for an allegation of abuse to have been made, then the abuse had to have already happened, is what I'm assuming. Never in a million years did I think that, what the person that was accusing, that it would happen after the 911 phone call. It's confusing all around, to be honest with you. Like, how did the 911 caller know that there was a chance of possible abuse? Okay, had one of my children disclose something to the 911 caller, and not me. I blame myself for that too, because, I feel like, my children didn't feel safe enough around me, to come to me and tell me that they were being hurt. But anyways, the person who made the 911 phone call has never been charged with abuse, with failure to protect or anything like that. I guess they're assuming because that person made a 911 phone call that they tried to reach out. So, the simple fact that I reached out to the Department of Social Services for help, does that not clear me? Anyways, let's move forward. Foster care. This is the very first ever foster care plan that was wrote. A foster care plan, it just goes through and says, gives details about how my children are doing, what brought my children into care, what I am going to have to do and the father is going to have to do in order to rectify the situation that brought my children into care. Like I said, I hit this bitch running. I hit the ground and I didn't stop. Anytime they called and they said, "Miss Baines, we need this out of you," you can guarantee within 24 hours, as long as it wasn't a Friday when they called, I had an appointment set up for whatever they wanted me to do. Of course, it's, to discuss how the children came into care. I was arrested by West Virginia State Police the evening of January 23rd, leaving both minor children without a caretaker. I did not leave my children without a caretaker. I had several friends, family members that could have came and picked my children up. I had made several phone calls, "Hey, can you come and get my kids?" I've had people, they were like, "Yeah, we're coming." And then the state trooper from West Virginia, which was very odd that he said this to me, but he said, just in case I did bond out, he's like, "Your bond's going to be so high, you probably won't be able to bond out, Miss Baines." But he made the statement to me, he was like, "Just in case you do bond out, we don't want your daughter sneaking out of the house to meet the alleged abuser." What? If my child's being hurt by someone, why would she sneak out of the house to go meet this person? That was my first thought. That was like, okay. So he said he felt it best if they be in the care of the Department of Social Services. So again, with jurisdiction, they called West Virginia CPS, they really wasn't interested in the case. They said they didn't hold jurisdiction, you know, to call Wythe County. So they called Wythe County, and somehow Wythe County gained access to my children, which I'm even not sure had it have stayed in West Virginia that I would have the same outcome, because, you know, this is not just happening here. This is not just happening in Wytheville, Virginia. This is happening in every state and in every town. People are losing their children because of false not CPS complaints, because of false allegations of abuse. People are losing their children because, you know, once CPS realizes, dang, I legally can't keep this child, we need to do something to keep these children. And you ask why? You can thank Bill Clinton for that. ASFA, the American Safe Families Act. I do believe his intentions were probably good when he set this act into place, into law. You know, it is to keep foster children from having to sit in a foster care setting for the rest of their life. Children who are really being abused and, you know, neglected, they do deserve to have a normal life with a normal family. And I believe that was his intent, you know, was to get these children into a home setting as fast as possible to minimize the trauma done to the children. So he says, the quicker you get them in, the quicker you get them out, I will give you a bonus for. And the state's seen cha-ching. They seen money. They wanted it all. It was greed. Once they figured out, hey, this child is adoptable. The foster family really, really, really wants to adopt this child if the parents don't get him back. If the parents get him back, we've lost. We've taken a loss, number one, because the allegations of abuse, you know, really aren't substantiated. Even if they are substantiated, you know, those kids get to go back home, but we'll talk about that on another video. So, you know, if the foster family is wanting to adopt the child, then they're like, cha-ching, that's $8,000. They have 3 of my kids. 3. Up to $24,000. If they can prove that these children are traumatized by what happened to them, then they get an additional X amount of dollars for a traumatized child. I would say for any child that has had to deal with the wrath of CPS workers and the lack of empathy and compassion that they really have for these children are severely traumatized. So foster care plan, they said they needed, I provided 2 names. These 2 names came back with significant CPS histories, which is a lie. Neither one of the persons that I named at that time ever had a complaint with CPS. They were unable to speak with me to obtain parental placement, safety plan, or even permission to transport the children, but they still took them. Miss Baines, I was already in police custody. The Wythe County Department of Social Services has an extensive history with Miss Baines regarding CPS services. The department has offered the family services repeatedly during interventions conducted by the department during CPS investigations and family assessments. This can go one or two ways. You can look at this and you can say, wow, she's had a lot of CPS involvement. She's a bad mom. Or you can look at this and you can say, wow, she's had a lot of CPS involvement. They know her. They know her family. They know her children. They know where she stands. But the fact that I do not have an extensive history with this person, I filed a FOIA request to get all of my records. My oldest son is now 19 years old. So I filed to get records for the last 19 years. They sent me back 4 cases. 4 cases that were the very first date on the one that they sent me was 2018, I believe. So a few months, possibly a year prior to all of this going down. Prior to 2018, I have no history. And they're like, oh, well, you probably had numerous phone calls prior to 2018, but because if the claim is unfounded, it drops off your record. Okay, so let's say I probably had numerous complaints prior to 2018 that were unfounded and that have already fell off my record. What does that have to do with any of this? They were unfounded. There was no abuse that was determined to have been going on. They say that they offered me plenty of services during, I'm not exactly sure where. Yes, I have a lot of paper. I'm laying you down for just 1 second. They have a lot. They offered me numerous. Actually, this is the one dated the 2018. It has information in it that I would probably should redact, but I will do this. August 2018. Okay, this is the letter. The family assessment record and all information related to it will be purged 3 years after the date of the report, unless there are subsequent, I can't say that word, reports within that period. If that occurs, then this report will be kept on file until the last report time period is completed. I appreciate your cooperation during the assessment. If I can be of any assistance in any way, feel free to call me, Louise Ferguson. This is them closing the case. This is a case closure. I have one for every single one since 2018, a case closure where they say that they feel. Oh, okay. Let's see. The agency feels that your family is capable of continuing, seeking, and maintaining these services on your own, and therefore we have no need to stay in contact with you. So when they say that they offered me many services, they're lying. That's just a way to say to the judge, we have been in contact with this family. Numerous times we have offered them many opportunities to do counseling, blah, 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 whatever, even though Miss Baines and the family has done that, it's not working. And the judge is like, well, if it's not working, it's not working, right? But they never offered me anything. We're going to finish this out, and then page 2, I believe. Mother has been released on bond. Bond conditions for Miss Baines will be followed as ordered. I'm hoping I can do this where you guys can just go back and read it on your own if that's what you feel the need to do. A visitation may be offered with me if approved, depending on my bond situation. I did go back to the courts and ask for a bond modification because my bond originally said no contact with my oldest child. It didn't say anything about contact with my youngest child, but I had those the bond conditions redone, and it said that I was allowed to have contact as long as I didn't speak about the criminal case. So I could talk to my daughter in front of a social worker for an hour visit, just not allowed to mention any facts or anything about the criminal case in West Virginia, and I could have seen my children, but they still denied me seeing my children. So I have not seen my 2 girls since the day I was arrested, which was January the 23rd of 2020. We're shortly coming up on January of 2023. That's hard to think about. Anyways, So basically, they're just giving here. This is telling what all I've got to do, my service plan, in order to get my children back. This one is basically the same thing. What I really wanted to point out to everyone was this right here on top. The department had an open court-ordered prevention case with Miss Baines and the family at the time that the children were removed from her home. The court had ordered this prevention case after a contentious custody hearing occurred in Wythe County Juvenile and Domestic Relation. This case had been open since November the 6th of 2019. So I was in a very, very contentious custody battle with my girl's father. I don't even know if I want to call him that, to be honest with you. Sperm donor would be more appropriate in this case. But anyways, he didn't want to pay child support. So he fought for custody of the kids for that simple fact, because he did not want to pay child support. It got to the point where I had even told him, sign your rights over, because I know you don't care about the kids. It's not about the kids. Sign your rights over to me, and I will tell the judge, I don't want child support. I will raise my children on my own. I mean, I had been with this man for 12 years. My oldest daughter was 11 at the time. His daughter, for the last 11 years, I financially supported the family. I worked. He stayed at home and played babysitter. He didn't even play dad, okay? He played babysitter. But that wasn't good enough for him. He wanted me back because I did not want to be back with him. He decided that he would make my life a living fucking hell. And that's what the man has done. That's what the man has done. It tells about where, I was living. I was working at the time. Residence is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Sitting on 6 acres of land. I was working. Miss Baines' significant other. Right around when all of this happened, I had met someone new. And I think that's what pushed my ex over the edge, was that I was moving on. Anyways, was in the home prior to the entry of a protective order in October of 2019. Allegations had been made that blank was around the children in the home in violation of the protective order in place. Okay, there was a protective order put in place. There was an incident with my 17-year-old son, almost 18 years old. Some people will say I should have never allowed it to happen. I'm the type of parent, I looked at it like he was 17, almost 18 years old. We've got to let our children make mistakes. If we don't, and we coddle them and shield them from everything, then I just don't think that's fair to the children. Because when they do, go out on their own, life's going to fuck them. Life is going to hit them so hard that they're not going to know what to do. But it was an incident with my son and my boyfriend at the time. My son had been drinking alcohol shooters that I had in the house for over 3 years. And he took them outside and decided he wanted to drink them. I did not know. He was 17 years old. Be honest with you, I really don't care what you think about that. It happened. So it was a temporary protective order. It was a 5-day protective order, where they're saying, okay, until we can get this situation cleared, until we can figure out what's going on here, I think it's best that, let's just keep him away from the home. And that's what I did for 5 days. Well, actually longer than 5 days. for the whole month of October and the whole month of November, and well into December. I think December the 16th. He had not been to my home for that long. Anyways, the allegations that that he was around the children and in the home in violation of the protective order in place. They have never proven these allegations. They said that he was in home for the period of the 5-day protective order. I actually have a motel receipt where for 5 days from the date of the protective order until the date that the protective order ended, I had taken my children to a motel room to secure their safety until we could find out what had really happened between my 17-year-old son and my boyfriend at the time. So when they say that there were allegations that he was in the home, they didn't even know that I wasn't in the home. Okay, that's just something that they have pulled out the side of their neck. But like I said, I have proven them wrong. And the judge just kind of, okay, Miss Baines. So you proved they lied. Next, whatever. This is telling just about the children. If you guys want to read it, you're more than welcome to. You can pause it and read it or whatever. More of it. I will leave it here for just a second. It's just basically telling, their dad was in jail. It's saying once he gets out of jail, what he needs to do. And I want to point this out. So, this is mine. No. Where is where it says what I have to do? If you'll notice right here and right here, I've redacted a name. Number 5, the department will FAPT initial and ongoing services as needed for Laura Blank. 7, random urine drug screens and or hair follicle drug tests. This will determine if Miss Blank is positive for any substances and will determine the effectiveness of treatment and substance abuse services needed and or provided. My name's not Laura. Definitely, her last name is not my last name. Cut, copy, paste. Is that how it is? That's their job. Like, I would love to get a hold of some other families' information, because I can guarantee you that it is copy, cut, and paste on a lot of them. Like, they don't even really do their job. The next page is just saying what I will cooperate with, what I will do. Display ability to maintain stable mental health and remain substance and alcohol free. Remain substance and alcohol free. Remain. Okay. They did an initial hair strand test. I had 24 hours. Actually, she sent me the message. I think it was around 4 o'clock that evening. She told me I had until 5 o'clock the next evening to have the test done. So not even 24 hours notice. Of course, I didn't have time that day. First thing in the morning, I got up and went. I think I got there about 9:30 whenever they first opened. Passed. No substances. I was pregnant at the time with my little man. And then the last but not least page, it's just saying what the foster family will do, what social services will do, what their, responsibilities are during this. But this is what I want to point out the most. Kelly Sluss for the Wythe County Department of Social Services, and Heather Austin for the Wythe County Department of Social Services. And they were both signed on 2/19/2020. We will end that for today. And I will see you guys soon.